Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Arch City Comics. This is CG Jumpstart Between the Panels. I am your host, Adam AF. Joining me tonight, we have the one and only Liam Gray.
Hey, guys.
We also joined by his artist on the upcoming Xenotype book, Odie.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. And a man who needs very little introduction is Micah Curtis.
How's it going, everyone?
So glad you guys could join us this evening. How's everybody doing?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Yeah, we're doing great.
Very good. So this is CG Jumpstart Between the Panels. You'll notice that we do not have Tinfoil Hat Nick with us tonight. He is on a vacation with the family before Christmas time. So he is taking some much-deserved time off. You might see him trolling the chat a little bit later, but he is not going to be on stream with us tonight. But that's okay. We're going to push on without him. Now, tonight we're actually doing something a little bit different. So far on this show, we have highlighted many different stories and art that's going to be in the upcoming magazine. And we're going to switch gears a little bit tonight, and we're going to focus a little bit more on the editorial side of the CG Jumpstart magazine. Hail to the chat. We got the real Steve Dye hanging out, making sure we don't give away too many spoilers. He says the resemblance is uncanny. I believe he's talking about the Liam Gray, Micah Curtis. It is brothers from a different continent.
It is what it is, unfortunately. He's the pretty one.
He is pretty good. You're looking very dapper tonight, Liam.
I've got to overcompensate.
Was that why you got the suit and tie on?
Yeah, I can't keep up with that. Look at that.
I mean, you're the one who's looking good right now. I mean, I just got out of bed.
Yeah. Now, what part of the world are you from, Odie?
Oh, I'm from Greece. It's like 3 a.m. now. I was sleeping and just got out of bed and I got ready for the stream.
And Liam, you're all the way in Australia. Can you not torture your artist?
Well, I mean, I could, but I want results. And for that, you've got to sort of put someone through a grueling, hellish experience.
And that includes making him get up at 3 a.m. to come on some nobody.
Yeah. That's part of it.
You gotta crack the whip, man.
I mean, I wanted to get on the stream. I mean, I would wake up at any time to be on the stream,
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Micah, do you torture your artists like this?
No, actually, I probably am too lenient with them, to be honest with you.
Oh, that's good shit. So Micah, you're actually interviewed in the magazine in a piece called "Critic to Creator," because you started off as a YouTube critic. You started going really hard at Marvel and the awful things that they were doing, and you kind of followed in the footsteps of your boy Zach and said, "You know what? I'm going to do this myself and create something that's going to be better than anything that you guys did."
Yep. So that was actually he was one of the people who encouraged me to do it. Because I was talking with him about it one night around the time that he had actually first launched the Indiegogo for Jawbreakers, and he's like, "Yeah, just try to find an artist." He's like, "Script it out, get the whole script done before you get the artist done, and then go from there." So what ended up happening with me was, because a lot of people have noticed, like, you've got all these videos and stuff from me in 2018, and that's what I was pushing, and then, or 2017, then 2018 I get really quiet, and then this year I got loud again, and that was because for most of 2018 I wrote a script and then started looking around for artists. Well, I wasn't finding anybody, so I'm like, you know what? Just to get past the time, I'm gonna write another book. Then I did that, and then by the time I actually found the artist for the first one, I ended up having 3 scripts already finished. So yeah, that's sort of how the whole thing started with me. Was I kind of I realized early on that YouTube stuff is only going to take you so far. in regards to both effect on the industry and in my personal life. Unless you hit 100,000 subscribers in your first year of explosion, which, I mean, I had a really good first year. I got like 16,000 subscribers within a year's time. But then it slowed down big time after that. And, I just realized that it's like, you got to look at other options. You got to look at things that are actually going to have an effect and things that are going to be able to, improve your own life. And I said, yeah, this is much more my style. I still like doing videos and stuff, but I don't know. There's something more fulfilling about the creation process with comic books that I'm vibing with a lot more.
Yeah, because I mean, eventually you'll actually have that copy to hold in your hand and show off and say, like, I made this. Like I did this, and this is me. This is something that's going to last much longer than the YouTube verse ever will. Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people from when I started with the whole YouTube thing, when Comicsgate started, have kind of fallen away, and they kind of got left in the dust in a sense.
Well, you actually bring up a really good point. And this kind of exploded a little bit a month or two ago, where you started seeing these, what they started calling them OG CGers or CG1. We're getting very upset because they started kind of falling off the map because they weren't really doing anything.
Yeah.
The YouTube, like you said, it takes you so far, but if you're not actually doing something to change the industry, to actually leave a mark, then yeah, you are in a sense being left in the dust.
Yep, exactly. It's there's little things that, like, and I had a ton of disagreements with that particular group. One thing I found hilarious was when that whole narrative started, because that was around the time that Mike Miller started going crazy.
Out of pure coincidence.
Yeah. Nobody stirred that at all. But he's a free thinker, that one. But anyway, the first narrative that they tried with me was that, oh, I wasn't there. Come on, motherfucker. You're not fooling anybody. Second thing was, this idea that, the consumer was left behind. It's like, who do you think we sell comics to, dude? The fact of the matter is that, if you want to be satisfied with Thor being a dude again, well, that's fine, but there's still a ton of social justice nonsense that gets promoted in comics every single week.
Day.
Yeah, day even. Yeah, because it's I even, like, I saw they're going to be doing another Dark Knight book with Frank Miller, oddly enough, with Trump involved. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Zack Snyder is doing a book that walls are bad and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I'm not Zack Snyder, Scott Snyder. But and I just look at that and I go, okay, well, if you think that just your commentary is going to change the industry, you're failing hard, and even bigger names like Ethan and your boy, they have over 100,000 subscribers, and that's, quite a bit of comic book fans. But at the same time, it's like you would assume that the industry is listening to that. They're not. They don't care. You assume these people at this point care about money. They think they're set because they're backed by either Warner Brothers and that faction or that company, or by Disney. It's like, you have to. The only thing that's going to change something is assuming that the higher ups will come in and interfere. And even then, Kevin Feige is now looking over the printing side of things, along with everything else at Marvel. And I haven't seen any major changes made as of yet. And I don't expect there to be. Ta-Nehisi Coates is still writing Captain America. I can't think of any one indication of how bad it is than that. A guy who hates America writing a character who wears the flag on his chest.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the embodiment of America.
Exactly.
You know, right there next to Superman.
Yeah, exactly. So it's they haven't had an effect, and I think that drives them crazy. But if you're willing to compete with people, and if you're willing to actually offer what people are looking for in regards to good comic books, that resonates a lot more with people, you know? And it's just about, you know, just basically understanding how the market works from my perspective. You know, markets work in a very specific order. First off, you get pissed off about something, and you let people know what you think. You know, and if they don't, you know, the second thing you can do is you can boycott, you can stop buying, and you pray that the numbers decreasing or something that they notice. If they don't care. At that point is when you have to enter the market yourself, or encourage the people who are entering the market themselves. And the good thing is that I think Comicsgate as a movement was ready for that next phase, because I think that most people were seeing that it wasn't having the effect that we would have liked it to. But there's a few people who are just kind of bitter about the fact that they didn't have that effect, and they're not willing to admit that they didn't have the effect either.
Okay, so here's the thing. Celebrity status, especially among artists, created, but I mean among writers too, but especially among artists, in following McFarlane in that big boom era, blew up egos to disproportionate sizes. And then these same people were given leadership roles within the industry. And to sort of maintain their ego and their importance, they closed out their engagement with the lesser class, which were the fans. You'll notice that around all the same time that these individuals were elevated into positions of leadership, letters pages disappeared. And there was a sort of chic to comicdom. But here's the thing, when you're not producing work that people want to continually consume, and you don't have an editorial team that's working for their confidence, but because they're your buddies and they're not going to tell you when you're doing something wrong, the only thing that can happen is a drop in quality and a decade-long stagnation that leads us to a point where your controversial, wild, anti-Trump statements that you want to change the world with are falling on deaf ears because your customer base has atrophied to nothing, because you haven't been serving them.
No, because they're too focused on pushing their agenda, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's mostly anti-Trump. I mean, that is all you hear from any kind of mainstream media anymore. Comics, movies, television, it's all anti-Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Half the people don't care, especially comic book fans have never really been that political. I mean, yes, there's always been a political subtext to a lot of different comic books. It's always been there. But it's been a subtext, you know.
It was kept subtext up until very recently. The president would usually be depicted as a faceless man.
Yeah.
This was very intentional, where you had stories like Captain America becoming Nomad as revolutionary. This was because it broke against the grain. Right now, these sort of revolutionary, because of their nature, not because of their originality, these sort of stories are now commonplace. Continuity has been discarded because the people working on the books don't like it. They don't want to learn it. So nothing means anything anymore, and you're essentially raging against the sky. It's ludicrous. It's terrible writing, terrible editing.
Yeah, and
actually, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and that's generally, I understand that art can be a powerful force, you know, against certain issues, and you know, I grew up a metalhead too, so like it's not like I've never heard political messages in my music or anything else, but I mean, Metallica, Megadeth is one of my favorite bands of all time. Well, and Justice for All is one of the more political albums I've heard than Megadeth's like half their catalog. But at the same time, when I listen to a song like Holy Wars, or I listen to, what's another good one? disposable heroes, stuff like that. There's a universal message to a lot of these. They're not dated.
They're also one song on an album of like 13 or more songs.
Yeah, exactly. And the big thing for me though is that if you date your work by just whoever the current president is, your art is only relevant for that time. And I mean, and that goes for people who are pro and against Trump. And I don't mean that as too harsh of a criticism, because I've had good conversations with Tim Lim and Brett Smith and guys like that, and I understand their perspective. I just don't agree with it. If you focus so much on Donald Trump in one way or another, once he is out of office, whether it be in 2020, I hope not, or 2024, your art suddenly loses all relevance, all of it.
Completely, exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, Tim Lim is a fairly solid manga artist. He's not as good as Odie. I mean, he maybe is a third as good as Odie. Maybe a third. Maybe maybe that's about as good as he can be. But he's wasting his potential and his time. And you try and tell him that as a reasonable consumer, like, no one's going to care about Walmart or his Trump comics and as soon as Trump's out, as soon as he's done, and we might get another 4 years, God willing, but they're just not going to care. It's going to be like all of the anti-Bush comics that came out during the 90s that were all over the punk scenes. Yeah. You ask people who were buying them and they can't even name them anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, drawing manga or any comics for that matter, that have to do with, that depict something political or something that is relevant for a small period of time. I wouldn't say that's the smartest thing to do, especially when you have the unlimited potential to create whatever else you want to do.
Bam.
Yeah, exactly.
You have unlimited potential. You have
yourself, and once it's over, it's over. Unless it's centered around some kind of revolution that's going to go down in history that people are going to be interested about for decades to come.
Yeah, unlikely.
That's not what this is. We're not at that revolution stage. I mean, there's nothing to really revolt against in my mind anyway. I mean, yes, there are people out there trying to revolt against Trump, but they're not actually doing anything. They're just saying how much they don't like Trump.
No, that's not true. That's not true. They're putting on black masks like gangs of supervillains and assaulting people in the street.
Oh, you talking about like Antifa?
I'd say those people are out there making change. I'd say that if you look back on this point in history, we'll be blessed to see a generation of entitled delinquents that are raging against the system that feeds them. But but that's me being sort of the anti-communist that I am. But But I think that our friend Steve, the real Steve Dye, he says it here in the chat. He says aspirational comics, not political comics. And isn't that what CG Jumpstart's about? Isn't that what CG is about? We have an audience that is across all castes and all races and all creeds that are starving for aspirational, inspiring, world-changing comic books. And like Odie said, you have unlimited potential to create anything you can imagine. And you're going to waste it on what? You're going to waste it on Walmart. You're going to waste your potential to uplift the comic book industry by going down that route. Or you can do what CG Jumpstart has done, and you can get reliable, talented, skilled creators, and you can put out product that people are going to fall in love with. You're going to get new talent. We're right at the base now, guys, and we're going to see we're at the grassroots, and we're going to see the birth of something amazing, incredible properties, a wide range of different sort of genres and tones and stories and characters for everyone, everything that people have been calling out for.
Oh yeah, this is 2020 is going to be the dawn of the next age. I mean, we've done so much work in the last 2 years to really push and to expand as much as possible, and we're finally at that point where we have got people lining up, wanting to put out content and create something that's better than what is on your comic book shelves right now. I mean, you can ask Steve Dye. I wanted to get him in here with us because he can say it better than me, but he's had to beat people away with a stick, people to want in just the first issue of this magazine. And God willing, this is going to be the first of very many issues to come, that we'll be able to do this for years and years and just keep plugging these new talents, guys like Liam. I mean, you too, Micah. I mean, this, like you said, Englewood's your first book. This is the first thing that you've done. You said, I've had enough. I'm going to create something that's truly spectacular, that is going to bring the joy of comics back to what it should be.
Yeah, exactly.
Joy.
The Englewood was spawned out of talking to people about Tom King's current run on Batman, who were pissed off about the Mark Waid run on Daredevil. And they didn't really think that, I forget the guy who's writing him right now. They weren't really happy with what he was doing either. Of course, Captain America being written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and Coates had previously basically made Black Panther the most boring comic in print, and things like that. It's I said to myself, it's I've been a fan of street level characters as far back as I can remember. Panther being one of my favorites. The Christopher Priest run on Black Panther is an all-time classic. And we wouldn't have Black Panther as he is a phenomenon now without Priest setting that foundation for him. So so I just said to myself, it's why not get into us? And why not try to modernize it in a way that makes sense? Not try to modernize the politics, but modernize the method in which someone becomes a superhero, So, my thought process on Englewood was how, you look back at Captain America, Batman, Daredevil, all these other guys. It's they know all of these styles. Well, in the modern day, who are the people who know several different martial arts styles and apply them constantly? Mixed martial artists. So it's kind of in the name. So I said, why not have an MMA champion become a superhero? And that's where I went with it. And my goal, at least when it came to what I'm trying to do for the customer, is to provide them a compelling story in a compelling narrative in a compelling setting. So I'm let's do modern day Chicago, because now it's the murder capital of the world, and I'm from there too, originally. And I'm let's do that. And my artist is from Chicago too, Brian. And I'm let's do a love letter to the city, sort of, along with, the sort of gang conflict that I know people really enjoy. Oddly enough, another Illinois product is the Saints Row games, made about an hour away from me in a city called Champaign. So I'm let's do a gang dynamic, because they were inspired by the gangs in Chicago as well. So let's do a gang dynamic. Let's do that sort of thing. And and then later on, as I continue to write it, because the original version of it was basically The Wire with a superhero. But now it's become, if you look at the cover of the book, it's become something much more than that, something more comic book. Well, it's even behind me, but it's become much more comic bookish, in the sense where I'm introducing. There's no triad presence in Chicago. There's no Yakuza presence there. I'm adding him in there for fun, because who doesn't love ninjas?
Right.
But that's basically what I'm looking to do, is bring back that old school feel of Frank Miller, and his Batman and his Daredevil, Born Again, possibly the greatest street level comic that's ever been written. And then of course, Chuck Dixon and his Batman run,
And
bring back that feel.
And so what we have here with Micah Curtis, if we're to again look back on this through history, is we have a young writer who started out with a solid concept and then studied the greats, studied the technique and storytelling methods of what worked of the past, and attempted to recreate something new for modern audiences that was rooted in greatness. He didn't create something to cash in real quick and get a Netflix series. He didn't consider racial politics or identity. He thought, what's going to be fun? What's going to be a great product? And CG Jumpstart is the only place in the current comic book industry where individuals like Micah can get their start. Comicsgate will give a voice to these people. And it's the only way that you're going to get a rise in quality and in story that we need, because other writers that are working in the industry right now do not regard the past as having anything valuable in it.
Yeah, it's all about bringing back entertaining comic books. No more sitting around the coffee shop talking about your feelings, or sitting at home on the couch eating a bowl of ramen thinking about your feelings. These aren't superhero books. This is not what drew people into the medium. It was about the high fantasy and the drive to be better than just normal life, you know? I mean, it's supposed to be, you know, we've always come back around to the escapism. It's, you know, I don't want to feel depressed reading a Batman comic. I want to feel like I can improve myself when I read a Batman comic.
Yeah.
You know?
You want to give that feeling that you're soaring. And by the way, while we've been talking, Englewood just crossed the 500 backer line. So I am extremely happy. So thank you to whoever that was. Well, two guys that was, because we were at 499. But yeah, I remember like one thing that sort of exemplifies what a comic book can do for you in regards to your mood. I remember taking one of my ex-girlfriends to see the first Avengers on like second day it was out. And she's like, that movie makes me want to soar. And I'm like, that's the feeling that you want to communicate to people when it comes to these books, is make them want to soar. And I see Liam is joining me in the slam.
He was hiding the sleeve underneath the entire time. Oh my God.
Oh,
what a reveal. What a reveal. The chat has been begging him to loosen the tie, and he loosens the tie, takes it all off, and he's got the sleeveless shirt underneath. This is amazing.
I love
Absolutely amazing.
It should be boiling hot there in Australia, right?
You know what? A joke is a joke, and you got to sweat for a joke sometimes, guys.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure you're not close to those fires, are you? Or are you?
I'm not far. I'm close enough that the sun is red, like I'm living in the days of Wormwood, and the sky is constantly overcast, but it's sort of fading mostly now. It's hot though, guys. It's hot.
Stay safe down there, man. Definitely stay safe. I want to take a minute to. We got a bunch of newcomers in the chat. Hail everybody! Z Russ, Ted Lehman. We got True Comment, my boy Flycan. He's got I did an interview piece with him that's going to be in the Jumpstart magazine. He's got a book coming out next year that's gonna blow people's socks off. We got Johnny Boy, Matthew Fowler, another contributor to CG Jumpstart. He's got a project with wow, I'm spacing right now. Jesus. Anyway, I'll come back to that. I'll think of it when I get done going through this, I'm sure. Spartan Scotsman, The Fuzz, Nella Possessed. Hail everybody. There was something where was that? Somebody was updating us on the Wenger cash stream. Oh, here it was. Apparently Preston has already had to leave not even a half hour in because he was too drunk.
You're kidding me.
So that stream went well.
Oh,
well,
man.
Can we get him in here? He's always a fun guy.
Wenger?
Oh, I got some things to say to him.
Oh boy.
Yeah, let's get Wenger in.
Oh, I thought you meant Preston. I'm like,
I doubt Preston. Preston does
I was
not.
about to say, it's like, I'm like, oh, I got some stuff to say to Preston. I got a lot of stuff to say to that dude, especially after the weekend I had, man.
Elaborate for the unenlightened.
Yes. So for those who do not know, Anti-CG came after me over the weekend because I was on war campaign, and I said the one thing, like I said the words "cum dumpster," and apparently this has I have to get the tattoo removed off my right arm. I'm no longer a Christian. Apparently I'm a Muslim now. I don't know how that works. Like that was the weirdest part of it. It's like I woke up on Monday morning and I'm like, somebody was like calling you. It's like, you know, you lie like a Muslim. I'm like, what does that even mean?
You lie like
a Muslim. Like, okay. Like, don't burn yourself on the crack pipe, little guy.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And then from there, it spiraled out of control because they couldn't get the story straight. First, it was, I said "cum dumpster" about Gina Carano, which I would never do because that woman would break my arm. Then from there, it was, I said it about Heather Antos. That wasn't true. And then
it's a little bit true that she is. I mean,
oh, well, I don't know about Heather Antos, but it was about Gina from War Campaign, and I'm like, but Gina is a self-admitted cum dumpster. So
she is.
Yes,
she will tell you that.
Yes. So, but really, it was just me saying it with no context. Ro was just surprised that I said it because he didn't think that those words would ever come out of my mouth. I'm like, dude, you need to watch my podcast. I'm a lot worse.
Well, they did the same thing to you that they did to Kelsey Shannon because Kelsey Shannon said, "I like pussy."
Yeah.
You said "cum dumpster," so shame on you, sir.
Yeah. Well,
shame on you.
The mistake was Edwin and Mike joining in.
Yeah.
I just dragged everything that they've done straight into the sunlight. I'm like, you do not get to hold the high ground over me, sir. I'm like, I want you to be, I'm like, I'm gonna give you a Bible lesson. We're gonna go to the Beatitudes, especially the part where there's a plank in your own eye.
It's funny, like Ethan said, Mike has a plank in his eye, like in what, the third month or something of Comicsgate after he joined. And it was just a sort of throwaway, like, oh, everyone's got flaws, and it was all friendly back then.
Yeah.
Now look at where we are. It's like
come full
crazy. Yeah.
You should always trust your gut. Always trust your gut. When your gut says that something about this person seems off, it's probably because something about that person is off.
Yeah. But my whole thing is just that anytime, especially as a public figure, you have to always acknowledge you have flaws. You have to always acknowledge that there's something you could do better than what you're doing right now. And there's nothing wrong. And I think that there are some people, getting into this, you get a lot of people who compliment you. You get a lot of people that hype you up and things like this. Like, your art looks great. Your writing sounds amazing. Your concepts are awesome. Da 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 da.
Your arms are really sexy.
Exactly. So it's easy to get a big head. Now, granted, I was already blessed with an oversized cranium, so I'm kind of used to it by now. But as it stands, you have to be self-aware, of your flaws and the things that you could be doing better than what you are. And if you're not self-aware, then you will get caught in a lot of the things that Mike, like Edwin and others, have gotten caught in, where they have no clue where they're at. Preston Poulter's another one. It's like you get out there and you start, criticizing people. And this was something I had even realized when I was doing criticism, because the things that are true of them were true of me at the time too. Is that you have to understand the position that you're coming from has a limitation to it, and the inability to view yourself as somebody who is flawed and as somebody who is Windows is bugging me now. But who is flawed and who is human, you'll never improve. There's nothing wrong with saying I'm very good at what I do, but at the same time you have to be willing to say, but I can get even better.
Exactly. Even champions have to strive for something. It's not enough to just stand at the top of the pile, because if you think that way, someone's going to come along and they're going to knock you down.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
you have to always.
Even if you do it, and there's, well, even if you're the best, at something, you can always be a little bit better than you were before. I think that, if you're not trying to improve, there's always the chance you're gonna forget what you knew how to do well, and you're gonna start getting like rusty at what you do. So I think it's important to practice every day, because it's not that you're gonna get bad at what you do. It's the thing that there's always someone that does the same thing as you do every day, and they're trying to become better than you.
Yeah,
And that's
hungry.
this guy over here, and he's going to be better than half the guys out there. I mean, he already is. So we're hungry. We're going to succeed. We're working hard. Check out Xenotype if you haven't already.
Exactly. Yeah, and with it's the same with some of the guys I'm working with too. I mean, I think Brian. The interesting thing about Inglewood is that to hype up my guys for a second, Brian is a really good artist, but it's the color work of Armand that works so well in tandem with him. Those two are going to be a team, I think. With me, obviously, for years, but they'll be in demand for other stuff too. You know, but on top of that, there's also another guy that I'm working with named Preston Acevedo, who is very hungry, and he is ridiculously talented.
Yeah,
he had a book. Yeah, he had a book called Doc Salem that didn't sadly meet his goal, but I'm gonna try to help him relaunch that in the future. He's got another one called Rockabilly Road Trip. He's like me. He's big time metalhead and stuff like that. So, and then we've got our book 3 Nights 4 Days, and that one, like everybody I've shown art for that too, and I've shown it to Ethan. I've shown it to John Malin. I could pull it up for you guys if you want to see it too.
Do it. Do it.
Please.
Absolutely. And
it's comic book. Show don't tell.
Yeah, exactly. So this dude he's a stud, and he's going to be one of those guys that, you know, in the future people are going to be talking about. Him and Rob Willis, I would say, are probably the two. They're scary good. EJ Moraes, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's doing Cyberfrog work now for Ethan. He's really good too. So let me show this off real quick.
And Rob Willis was the one that's working with Matthew Fowler on the. They're going to have a preview of a book in the magazine that's going to be coming out. And
wow, really?
Yeah, Willis is phenomenal.
That's really great. I thought that he was sort of locked into Shinobi Sasquatch, so the fact that he's venturing out into other things is really big news. I don't think a lot of people know that. Actually,
he was working on this before Shinobi Sasquatch. So this is going to be his first actual published work. Is going to be in CG Jumpstart.
Nice.
I took a bunch of Rob's stuff and I shoved it into Odie's little box where I make him draw and made him study him so that he could learn his physique and stuff. So you want to tell him?
Yeah, I was studying a lot of other works, you know, especially Rob's. I mean, I was studying anatomy from his drawings and helped me a lot, a lot. I improved like in a day. Like my anatomy went from here to there just from studying his work.
Yeah. Say Rob is a stud. Rob reminds me a lot of a young Dale Keown in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
This is Preston's work. And with Edgar Tavides is my colorist for this book. Edgar did the colors on this, by the way, with 0 inks. 0.
Oh, and you're kidding.
He gave it that kind of shade and stuff to it. He just did them while he did the color work. And he's like, wow. He's like, yeah, he's like, I don't mind doing it over pencils. He's like, give me a day. And this was what he gave me. And I'm like, I've never seen a colorist work that fast with that much detail. And I'm like, you did the inks too? Whoa. What the heck? So,
that was in a day? That took a day?
Yeah, and I think that this particular drawing from Preston only took a day too. Like, these guys are specialists, you know, and that's one thing that talks about, you know, we talk about young talent. Like, these are guys that they have their one thing, but they're so good at it that you can't deny how desirable their work is going to be in the future. And Preston, I'm trying to get him locked into stuff with me for the future as well. So,
yeah, and Preston's also doing a variant cover for Mike Murphy's "The Gods Fear Me."
Yes, it's a sketch cover, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, "The Gods Fear Me" has a lot of hype behind it, guys. Like, even with people relatively not even knowing who he is, I see a big following behind that book. The people are really excited for it.
Yeah, I've had some pretty lengthy talks with Mike about that one, and he's got a lot of passion for it, and he you know, he's had to go through some trials and tribulations in regards to even getting it out there.
Okay.
So, because he got some stuff from the anti-CG guys too that was completely undeserved, and it's one of those things though where people are going to have to realize it's like the future of the industry is not vying for work at Marvel and DC anymore. They're not. Like, I'll tell you right now, it wouldn't surprise me, and I don't mean to toot my own horn here, but Inglewood has moved over individual copies across all 3 versions of the book, which is digital, physical, and the director's cut. I've moved over 600 copies. I don't think Mags Visaggio can actually sell that many books. She gets a lot of them shipped.
Yeah, they'll ship those books, but they'll sit on shelves.
Yeah, exactly.
She'll shed that many tears a day at a con.
Oh yes. But it wouldn't surprise me if if I'm making Mags's numbers look ridiculous in a year from now.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's the goal, is because if the industry wants to prop up someone like Mags Visaggio, and I'm not going to mention anything about the sexuality or gender identity or whatever, like that's irrelevant to the talent, and that's my point. Is I'm a straight white male, well, straight white half Jew, but half like straight white guy, but the talent is what matters, and that will ultimately be what shines through. The same for somebody like Preston here, Preston Acevedo, not Preston Poulter, but Preston Acevedo, his abilities are ridiculously good. He's very seasoned. He's a professional in all matter of the statement. And let me grab another.
What's his turnaround on pages? You said about 1 a day. Can he keep that up steady?
I think so. Because here's another one that he sent me.
Look at that. That's great. Wow.
Yeah, this is the satyr that they discover in the village at in the first issue. Like it's gonna be one of those books that it's very Berserk inspired, very Kentaro Miura inspired. Mm-hmm. But let me actually show you the original sketch. This is the sketch, his words, not mine, of the satyr originally when we were putting together the designs for him. It's like sketch. This is a sketch.
Yeah, that's a full-blown pinup.
Yeah.
Damn,
that is awesome. Yeah, the chat's going nuts.
Yeah, we've got a colorist too, and you guys been working for about the last week. He goes by the name Spartan Scotsman. He's in the chat. I don't think we have anything that I can bring up unless you do, Odie, on your screen by any chance. But talking about finding the right colorist for an artist, like it was difficult to find someone who could complement Odie's work. It always looked better black and white than when we added colors. I went through like 3 colorists, but this new guy, he's got it. It's beautiful. It's exciting. He knows what he's doing, and I'm really keen to be able to show you guys what he's up to. So I agree.
Yeah, I think I have some of the pages here. I got him
via DM. I don't know if he's talking to you, Odie, or you, Liam.
What was that?
No, I'm saying I have
via DM.
Yeah, I'm saying I have the pages here. How do we show them? I mean,
there should be a tab at the bottom that says share screen.
Oh, okay.
And then
yep. All right. Let me see.
Yeah, this is good, man. There's just so much talent just bubbling.
Yeah,
out of comedy right now. It is utterly ridiculous. I mean, it makes me elevated just to see all these people showing off their skills. And like you said, man, everybody's hungry. Everybody wants some. And these guys, they deserve it. And a lot of these people have been turned away by the big 2 for years because they weren't good enough or this and that, or basically they didn't have check marks to click off.
Do you guys see my screen, or
I see your screen, but I just see us. Bring up
okay.
Bring up there we go. Now I can.
Do you see it now?
Yeah.
There we go.
This is the city.
Mhm.
We have a couple of more pages. Yeah, this is one of the first pages in the book.
Can you zoom in on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
There we go. Oh wow, that is some detailed color.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
I've
guys.
seen your line work. Your line work is out of this world, Odie. And
Oh, thank you.
I know Liam. We were talking in one of the private DM groups, and Liam was looking for a colorist. And man, I was like, man, I don't even know of a colorist that I want to send his way because he's just going to beat the shit out of him.
Well, I mean, some people have to bleed to make good art. But it's just amazing. This guy, he's not only fast. On top of that, he's sort of he's live streaming it via like the production. Oh, the color of these pages. Look at that one. That's one of my favorite pages. He's good. We got a little bit of a war campaign shout out there, as you can see too. But the guy's just amazing. He's sort of doing it live. So anyone that wants to sort of pop over to his Twitch channel will be able to see him do it nearly a page a day, sometimes a little bit more. Bringing this to life, they'll be able to offer suggestions or give their feedback, and that's something that I wanted to offer the community, you know, because Xenotype is for the fans, you know, it's the story that you guys deserve and has been withheld from you. And just to get back on topic with what you guys were saying about the industry and all of this upcoming talent, the problem is, again, like I said earlier, they shielded themselves from new talent, you know, so you can't send in your applications. It's not like 10 years ago where an artist could send their portfolio and even get a rejection letter, you know.
Yeah.
They're just so isolated that this new talent has been floundering around looking for somewhere to go. So why don't we just open the floodgates, give them a voice, give them the lessons that came before us, and make great comic books again, because that's what the fans want.
It is. I mean, that's what everybody's clamoring for, you know. It's just we don't get it out of the mainstream, which is ridiculous because that's where we've always gotten it before. They have the resources to produce these kind of books. They just don't do it anymore. They grab the cheapest artists they can find. Their writers are all, you know, they've got certain check marks, or they know somebody, you know, they're somebody's son or daughter or whatever it may be.
Or they're really good at finishing off a popsicle.
Or they're really good at I like that. That's a good analogy. That's a very good analogy. But these people, they don't know anything about actually making comics. You know, somebody said it earlier. It's a lot of it's like practice for Hollywood. You know, can you write a comic book script? Okay, you can. So why don't we'll give you this Netflix series, or we'll let you direct this movie or write this movie. It's just ridiculous. Like, we need to separate comics as its own medium, like it has been for generations.
This is a 90 to 100-year-old medium. People say it goes back to ancient Egypt. Well, that's fucking stupidity. But this is nearly 100 years of Americana, of rapid evolution. Like I said earlier, I gave Rob's art to Odie, and in the space of a day, he gained like 2 levels as an artist. And imagine that spread across 90 years regarding not only anatomy, but pacing, what goes into an issue, how to tell stories. There is an art and a technique to comic books that is being lost as people try to turn them into screenplays, right? And it's going to go away, and we're going to replace it with greatness.
That's right. So, Micah, what you know, you mentioned some like, you know, street level superhero books and whatnot. You know, what was your biggest inspiration? You know, coming into not only just writing comics, but, you know, what were you into growing up? You know, what did you read?
So the very first comic I ever read was Amazing Spider-Man. I want to say it's 323. It's the debut of Carnage. And it was basically, and then David Michelini's run on the Amazing Spider-Man. That was the first. That was the very first. Actually, oh no, it was 361, not 363. But like standing gangsta face. Yeah, I kind of do. It's from working as a bouncer as long as I did. But and in security and stuff like that. But anyway, the that was my first exposure to it. It was basically this classic superhero in Spider-Man, but had these darker villains that, you know, were a little bit scary, more monstrous, you know, and that was my first exposure to Venom. Venom's, you know, and you see him over my shoulder there, he's my favorite character ever. This is the one character that if I was offered to write him from the big two, I'd be sorely tempted to take it. You know, but from there, I got into other Marvel properties, the Hulk, because that was around the time that Peter David was doing his Legendary run. And then I kind of got away from it because we moved from Chicago to a rural area, and in those rural areas, there's no comic books anywhere.
No.
So, but you had you had TV shows though. So the Marvel Action Hour was a thing. So
so you had the X-Men animated series and the old Spider-Man cartoon.
Yep, exactly. Plus, Iron Man had a couple of good seasons. Well, had one good season of two, and then the Fantastic Four really as well. And because that's where you got Keith David voicing the Black Panther and stuff like that. And you had John Rhys Davies voicing Thor.
I say this unironically, but Black Panther really was like in my top 5 favorite superheroes of all time. Like I really liked his stuff, and you know, I think that it sort of sucks that what they did in the films, where they sort of took so much of the core of that away and replaced it with sort of superficial shit. But everyone loved it, so.
No, I didn't. I don't mind the depiction in the movies, but I think that his portrayal in Civil War is better than him in his own film.
Yeah,
that I think got more of the depth of T'Challa.
Yeah.
But then again, I think that you could get away with that because it wasn't a Black Panther movie, but you need to sell him for his own movie. So you really give him, like, that line he delivers about revenge at the end of the movie is chilling. So I'm hoping we get more of that in the future, especially if the rumor is true that the villain of the next Panther movie is Dr. Doom. But if we're starting with Doom War, strap yourselves in, boys. But anyway,
well, I mean, where does the Marvel universe have to go, right? I mean, there's Doom. It's all they've got left that they haven't fucked up, and they've tried really hard to fuck Doom up. You know, like 3 times, like. But
luckily, the first two, well, the first 3 now Fantastic Four movies aren't canonized at all, so they can start from scratch and hopefully fix and rectify that terrible movies.
Just the one thing before we get back to my inspirations, the one thing I regret is they threw Mads Mikkelsen away on a villain in Doctor Strange instead of saving him for Doctor Doom.
Yeah,
Mads would have been amazing at it. So, but anyway, that was another one of my inspirations. And then when I got to college is when I really got back into it. And that was the Quesada era, Civil War, all that other sort of stuff. When Bendis was actually halfway decent. But my inspirations came more from the British writers. That was when I was reading a lot of Warren Ellis. That was when I was reading a lot of Garth Ennis. Grant Morrison, stuff like that. And that was a lot of where I ended up, and then a lot of Frank Miller stuff too, because that's, Sin City came out, on film, and I'm like, I need to find out more. And then I'm like, oh yeah, this is the same guy who did this in Daredevil, and so I read his entire Daredevil run. And then from there, that was sort of basically it. It's like if I had to give you 5 guys, I'd probably say Christopher Priest, David Michelini, Frank Miller, Warren Ellis, and Garth Ennis, most likely.
That's a hell of a lineup. Yeah. I can't wait to to see what you do with Englewood, and what you've got past that too. What's the name of the book you said you were working on with Preston?
It's called 3 Nights, 4 Days.
3 Nights, 4 Days. That one sounds really awesome as well. And I mean, honestly, that's one of those books. Not very many books where I just buy because of the art, especially anymore. But that guy, has got mad chops, and
Oh, yeah.
I want to see what he can really do when unleashed into a full comic book.
Oh yeah, Preston is a stud when it comes to the art, man. He's fantastic.
What else in CG Jumpstart other than your magnificent self are you looking forward to the most? Let's start a war. Let's start a flame war. Who are you looking at the most that you think is great?
Just who's going to be featured in CG Jumpstart, or just anyone in general?
Not just CG Jumpstart. Who do you think is going to be the takeaway story for that?
One person I'm always curious as to what he's going to be doing is going to be Sim. Always curious about what Sim's up to.
You stole mine, you bastard.
Yeah, and Sim's got some awesome tricks up his sleeve for CG Jumpstart. He's got Crash Course that's going to be in there with Gat. He's got his own book that he's working on, Nat the Merc. It's really gonna blow people away. And he's also got some parody work with Man of Sex, the meme police.
Oh, that'll be good.
That'll be laughs. That'll be good times.
Yeah.
That's the best thing about War Campaign that everyone sort of overlooks is like they're fun. Remember when comics were fun? When people had a sense of humor, and now everyone acts like if you just everyone's heard it a million times already, but it's going to be a great product. CG Jumpstart is going to offer an amazing opportunity to folks, and I think that it's essential in the wild west that is social media to have a group of guys that are going to go, look, these people aren't going to turn into raving lunatics, right?
Yeah.
Here's a cluster of artists that you can sort of peruse and stories you can enjoy that you can then follow through with. You know that these are trusted guys. So
yeah,
Sims is by 2021. Sims is going to be one of the biggest artists in the comic book industry by 2021.
You said it, man. 2020 itself is going to be a huge year for him. He's going to be. We'll be shipping Blood Hunt that I'm co-writing in February. He's going to be doing a Nat the Merc campaign. He's got a Demona campaign, and it's just the start. He's just getting fired up right now, man. No one else
in the entire industry that I have heard of or worked with or ever seen has his rate of turnaround at the level of quality that he produces. Yeah. And because he's doing such a huge amount of work and such a diverse range of character study through his work, at the rate that he is increasing in skill, he's going to break through 2 more barriers. And when he gets through those, he will be nearly McFarlane level good.
I agree. Right? You hit the nail on the head there, man. He's definitely one of those guys to watch out for because he does. Every time he posts a page, it's just he improves in leaps and bounds. Yeah. And it's like, where is he going to go from here? Well, it's just the sky's the limit for the dude. Yeah. He's just going to continue to melt your mind. I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
So what about you, Liam? Where did all your inspiration come from? Obviously, Xenotype is very heavily manga driven. You can definitely see your influences there, but what did you grow up on?
I grew up on a lot of stuff I can't say, but I really like Spider-Man. And there's a lot of influence of Spider-Man in Xenotype as well. In many ways, Xenotype was an outlet for me to sort of tell my Spider-Man stories in an interesting, unique way that would be original. Without them being wasted, because this was something that I'd been primed for and getting ready for nearly a decade, right? And those doors are now closed, so why waste all of that time, right? And a lot of the influences for me, I mean, if we're going to go into manga and anime, I was largely influenced by Osamu Tezuka. He was the grandfather of manga. I've said before that I have a huge love for him. I'm friends with his son. Good dude. I would say Go Nagi, again, was another big influence of mine. And in the Western world, again, I can't say who my Western writing influences are, unfortunately, for reasons. But Odie, what about you? Tell them about you, mate. You're sitting there all like a statue.
Well, yeah, I mean, it all started when I wasn't into anime or manga I mean, the manga thing is a pretty recent thing for me. I remember painting, drawing on canvas with colors, and I clicked on the Death Note. I started watching the Death Note, and oh boy, I got stuck. I want to create my own anime, and I didn't really know how things worked, and I thought I had studied animation to create an anime. But the thing I didn't know was that I had to create a manga so that when it got popular, if it ever would become popular, a company would take that manga and it would turn it into an anime. And yeah, I started drawing manga. I really sucked at the beginning. Um, well, I was lucky and I put a lot of work, and I managed to get a finalist prize in a manga competition. And yeah, that got my hopes up, and yeah, I just continued like drawing manga like every day, all day, and yeah, I kept like joining competitions, and yeah, I could never like get a first place in the competition, and that was really annoying. But just recently, I like won actually a competition, and yeah, that was really great. I mean, and after that, like we started drawing Xenotype, and yeah, I think that this is gonna be the first big thing for me, Xenotype. We're gonna send it off. Oh, actually, I'm saying too much. I shouldn't
Yeah,
probably.
No
yeah,
spoilers.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's how it started. From watching Death Note. Yeah.
A lot of blood and sweat and broken hands.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
like
I
how you
mean,
say you straight up said you like I sucked in the beginning.
yeah, I really did. I mean, actually, the first manga thing that I ever drew was Naruto, but I couldn't really draw him because the face was kind of weird. You had to know how to draw it, and I still can't. It truly pisses me off. I can draw everything else, but not Naruto. And yeah,
So how long have you been drawing? How long have you been at this?
I've been drawing as long as I can remember, but I've been drawing manga for it's probably almost 4 years, maybe a bit less, but yeah, it's just a recent thing, the manga. But I know I want to do it for the rest of my life, so yeah, I'll
So
just
that's
keep doing it.
pretty incredible that you've made this kind of this
Oh,
kind of like leaps and bounds. I mean, in just such a short amount of time. I mean, because your line work really is just. I mean, here we can zoom in on this. This is a previously unreleased page of Xenotype, so this is an exclusive right
yeah, it is. Yeah. I finished that today, and the last panel was really, really hard to draw. Um, it may not look that hard, but I wasn't really familiar with that wind effect, and I had to really like experiment and do it over and over until I got it right. Maybe I don't know. It looks decent, I
Because
guess.
otherwise I would have beat him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to keep that one page per day or more if I have time. But yeah, I never really wake up early, and I only like have time for one page. But yeah, I'm trying to change that
Yeah.
and
To get back
draw
Well,
more.
artists usually always sleep in late and stay up late.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, um, I'm trying to sleep early and then wake up at like the ideal for me would be 7 a.m. But I'm trying to. I always put my alarm at 6, and then I snooze and I like sleep till 12 or something like that. Yeah, I have to change that.
I can hear Liam getting his whip out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've got to get him. I've got to get him back up to his. I've got to get him back up to his 1.25 page rate, and then back to 1.5 again. Had him there for a while, but it broke his hand. So he's going to come back stronger, and we're going to get back to a steady production of 1.5 pages, a day. It's just going to
Yeah,
get him there.
I mean, to be honest, I can do that. If I really focus um, and like focus on that page and draw fast and wake up a bit early, yeah, I can definitely do it. But I'm trying to, not break myself.
Well, that's
But
it. You got to
yeah,
know. You got to know your limits. You got to
Quit
know your limits.
yeah,
quit hurting yourself.
I'll eventually get to the production rate. I mean, I have to.
Mhm.
Yeah, kind of have to.
Liam, people in the chat are asking, when do we get to fund this?
Okay, so we're looking to launch by, I would say, early March, maybe late February, around there somewhere. Pretty flexible when exactly. The book should be finished by then, so there won't be a lot of sitting around waiting for the book to be done. We should have the colors done by the end of April before we ship it all out. Ship it, print it, boom, done, and delivered straight in your hands with Volume 2 straight hot off the press as soon as we send it out. We're going to keep this thing going. The first issue of Xenotype will be a full 216 pages, ladies and gentlemen.
That doesn't sound like an issue. That sounds like a graphic novel, sir.
Yeah, it is. It's a full takobun. It's the entire first arc. Approximately seven comic books worth of content. So this is going to be a full amazing experience, exclusive for Indiegogo backers. And the very first book to come out of Conquest Comics, and what will launch young Odie's career. So sure to be a highly priced collector's item.
I really hope so.
You better make sure you've got him chained to the desk, or else, he's going to launch right out of your fingers.
Yeah, these colors are amazing. Yeah, I mean, Liam's. I don't know how he got our colorist, but he's doing a pretty super good job.
I like you've got these two little Easter eggs sitting here. You got the Cyberfrog Kyle Ritter poster and a Red Rooster action figure.
This is our lead protagonist, Felix Vasquez. Now he's a young comic book artist, not so different from Odie actually, and he wants to make comics, but then his life changes in a way that he didn't exactly foresee.
Xerus has a question for you. He says, "Why such a large book at first?"
Okay, I believe that the thing that is most lacking in modern comic books is storytelling. I believe that when we got our storytelling out of comic books, it inflicted massive damage to the industry, and we encountered people that were writing books that were largely written to be part of sagas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we sort of sat down to work on Xenotype, I wanted to make sure that I had a full, complete story that would be worth the audience's time. And also, Odie actually wanted it to be the size of a full manga takuban.
Yeah.
So I expanded it out. I expanded it out for him, and then basically we sort of thought, well, we've got all these really great characters, and we just fleshed them out. We fleshed out the action. So basically, we produced the best possible quality product that we could. Full and complete in your hands. No waiting another 3 months to get the next issue. It'll be straight there for you, and that's the goal, to keep this going.
Yeah, I really want to make this as big as possible because I wanted it to look like 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 an actual manga. So yeah, I didn't really want it to be like 60 pages. I wanted like at least like 180, and
Mhm.
yeah, then we went to like 260.
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised that you were the one who suggested that. That definitely sounds like a Liam decision. It's like, make it bigger, more pages.
More pages to it.
Yeah, actually, it was quite the opposite. Liam said I needed to be 60 pages, and I said, okay, I'll try, I guess. And then I was like, nope, we have to. There's no way we're gonna be able to fit all the story in only 60 pages. It's gonna be like at least 120.
He wanted to, he
And
wanted, he wanted, he wanted to keep adding beautiful little transition panels like the one we're looking at here, as you can see to the side with the power lines that look
Yeah.
stunning. And you start adding transition panels and extra scenes in fights where people are throwing punches and nice little character smirks to add more sort of punch to the sort of jokes, and you end up with a much bigger book.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have to add these panels. They're essential for the smooth transition and flow of the story.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had to add them.
Mm-hmm.
I like how the clock reads 7 o'clock, and Odie was just saying how he wants to be up at 7 o'clock but can never get up at 7.
Oh yeah, though
Well, yeah.
that's actually I think a coincidence, but yeah,
You know,
that's
aspiration.
actually,
Comics are aspiration.
yeah.
So we don't want to harp on to Xenotype too much because we've sort of it's great, but there'll be time for that later. Let's get back to talking about CG Jumpstart and Micah stuff because we've been holding the limelight for a while.
Yep.
Say, well, where to still go with me? I'm not even completely sure. I am glad you brought up Go Nagai though. He's probably. I have another book that I'm going to be doing in the future called Project Lazarus, and people who are followers of my channel for a while are going to know exactly what I'm talking about when I say trying to get that book done. Like, it has been a nightmare for me, and I'm thinking of doing a director's cut with it, like I am with Inglewood, and writing the forward on that, and I'm calling it Chasing Devilman, because it's a lot of that's been one of my biggest inspirations of the last couple of years of my writing has just been Devilman.
Yeah, I think that Go Nagai is probably one of the seminal writers of our time and fundamentally misunderstood. People completely misinterpret his work. They see sex and violence and they assume that it's all rock and roll and sex and violence and miss the cultural commentary that is very important to understand the whole story, his whole message.
Yeah. What did you think of Crybaby, by the way, Liam?
Crybaby was a little bit of a disappointment because I felt, again, it sort of misunderstood a bit of what he was trying to produce. And I felt that the balloon body techniques undermined the underlying violence. And when you undermine the violence and make it more cartoony, you remove the horror. And without the horror of war, how do you have a social commentary on the horrors of war? But I mean, it's better than a lot of the other stuff we've gotten lately. So at least there was that.
Yeah, I think it's a fair criticism, and that's something that I thought to myself when I was starting this whole thing is that, like, the whole violence question, is how do you incorporate it, and then what do you want to do with it? Because Inglewood's a PG-13 book, basically. It's not that violent. Anything that gets nasty in that book is implied. It's not something you see. Whereas, and you saw this shot with 3 Nights earlier, it's blatant. I think that, and just the philosophy that I bring into the work that I do is that never, ever, ever would I want to be the type of person who does blood and guts for the sake of blood and guts, unless I'm doing something that's kind of schlocky.
Yeah.
Xenotype
is full of gore.
It's full of gore, but I mean, what's the language?
There goes another spoiler.
Yeah, no, it's all good though. I make sure that it's all story driven, and I do it for a reason. Again, like I said, Gennady was the influence, and I wanted there to be stakes and costs. I'm sick of superhero comics and comic books where there's no stakes, there's no risk, without that you can't engage, right?
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, you're talking about books full of Mary Sues, whether it's male or female. You've got these impenetrable superheroes that are infallible and almost invincible as well, and it takes away story, and it takes away the ability for the reader to connect to said hero.
Declawing the superheroes and supervillains is tedious, and it sucks. So
yeah, they've got to be a threat. There's got to be something to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Like there's nothing wrong with having your hero win, like at all, but there needs to be a climb.
And there's nothing wrong with having your hero with the ability to bench press a small mountain. But if he just stomps over everything, and isn't this guy so great, and everyone around him says how great he is, like the most recent Hulk cartoons, you're left there sitting thinking, like, well, what fucking story is this? This is a waste of fucking time for everyone watching it. You know?
Yeah. And if you keep these up, if you start doing this over and over, then people are going to lose interest in the end, because they're going to know that every villain who comes, who tries to stop the main hero, he's going to lose, and that's going to be it over and over. Yeah, that's not interesting at all.
Yeah, I think the most compelling comic that I decided to read while all this social justice nonsense was going on was Invincible by Robert Kirkman.
Oh, that's a good book.
Yeah, that was one of the more... The fact that he was willing to let that character suffer is what made it so compelling at points.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's something that cannot be underestimated. You have to be willing to let your heroes suffer. They have to go through some shit, or else there's no reason to continue it. You know, the more compelling things out there are when, you know, your hero is on the verge of death. I'm gonna catch crap for this, but I'm actually a big fan of Hideo Kojima, the video game creator. And I think like one of the most compelling video game moments I ever had was near the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, when your old ass motherfucking Snake having to climb through a literal microwave to get to your objective. And then after it's over, you have to fight your greatest rival in a hand-to-hand contest. And by the way, he's fresher than you. Good luck. But that's the sort of thing that tells you the story of how far this person is willing to go to do the things that they believe in, and to save lives, and to do all these great things. And like, yeah, in these days, I don't really see that. You know, the worst that I see is like everybody's got daddy issues. You know, I read BB Free and I was traumatized. More Gabby Rivera stuff. And I'm reading this. It's like, so the worst thing, so you want to get your message out there, but we don't. And this was the weird thing about it is when I look back at it, it's kind of like a microcosm of the industry as a whole. You want to get your message, your voice out there, but you don't really have anything to say. And the only thing that's possibly stopping you is your daddy issues. I think that sums up every comic book writer in the modern day that works for the big two.
Pretty much.
Know? People need their father. I know. I mean, isn't this a revolutionary? Let's get some downvotes. People need their father. You raise. I didn't have a father. You raise people without a father. They have a harder life. They look for substitutes, and all too often those substitutes are superheroes.
Yeah.
Only you've got people that grew up, again, often with dysfunctional families, now writing dysfunctional superheroes and claiming they're not even for children. Well, when you're not writing them for children, how are they going to be for children? And when the children look to them, what are they going to see but dysfunction? Where can they go from there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because people need their dads.
That's actually a really, really good point. Everything that you just said there. You know,
that's why I do this work instead of doing something that pays me more money, guys. Because I didn't have a dad, and some Spider-Man comics and some people that wrote them gave me a chance to be something other than a piece of shit. And I know that there are other kids out there that are looking for that same kind of guidance and clarity. and they're looking at the modern books that are out there, and what's the message in the modern books? All that matters is power, race, and sexual preference. That is the worst thing to teach a generation of people looking for guidance.
Yeah, that's a terrible message.
Yeah, you're basically breeding identitarianism at that point, you
Mhm.
know. And one point that I made when I was doing I had people who would ask me, it's like, well, what's so bad about Ta-Nehisi Coates? I don't know anything about him. I'm like, he's basically the Black Richard Spencer. You know, he's not a good guy at all. And the things that he preaches are not good things, and they make you hate people. You know, and that's not, you know, that's not superheroes. That's super villains, you know. I was actually mentioning this because somebody in my Discord server was asking me about some political stuff, and I ended up, you know, ruminating on like writing theory for comic books. And I said that, you know, certain belief systems, and especially ones that you know, don't emphasize these, you know, universal morals that a lot of people believe in, whether you believe they come from God or they're just some sort of natural law. The fact of the matter is that if you preach this worldview that is this idea that power is all that matters, and you know, he who has powers, you know, is the one with the rights. He who has power,
and he who is without power is without consequence.
Yes, exactly. Like these sorts of statements are, you know, are what somebody like a Ta-Nehisi Coates believes, or some others. And I'm like, you know, these belief systems, they don't lead you to being a Captain America. They make you the Red Skull.
They make you unhappy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They make you a 15 or 16-year-old boy with no direction that wants to kill himself because he thinks the whole world is against him. So why not steal or fight or hurt other people? Why not do whatever gets you ahead, no matter at the cost of anyone else?
Or
that's
try to
what
cancel
it creates.
Them. Yeah.
Yes. And it tears down societies, and it tears down everything we're building. Like, that's why Comicsgate is so important. Like, that's why I've given this so many years of my life, guys. Like, this is bigger than just making independent comics. This is the only way we can give a voice to people that need to be heard in an industry that, since World War II, has substituted for fathers that have gone missing, that has offered guidance to grown men who might just think, well, you know, that might just need to see the world a little bit differently for just a minute. You know, that's why the SJWs want to take it over. And that's why this is where we need to draw the line.
Yeah. Like how many young men from years upon years ago, you know, had issues at home, but then they could look up and see that poster of Superman on their wall. And that was what kept him going. Or Captain America. You know, stuff like that. Like that.
You're sitting there listening to your father beat the shit out of your mother and push her up onto the stove while he punches her in the fucking face. But you can put on Superman. You can put on the Superman movie and turn up the television, and you just have a chance to have something else. You know? And that's where these boys go. And what do we teach them?
Yeah.
That anger is good. That hatred and identity define who you are. Like, no. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Well, that's
no.
Like, let's go into theory a little bit more, because I love doing that. Obviously, that's one thing that aggravates me about Brian Michael Bendis's run on Superman, is he's completely lost sight of what made the character who he was. He felt like, well, Superman is an older thing, so I, Brian Michael Bendis, being the supposed genius that I am, have to come in and fix everything. Well, no, Superman was fine. And I forget who was writing him beforehand.
It was,
I want to say it was
Gleason and no, Tomasi. Pat Gleason was the artist on it.
Tomasi was he doing action, or was he doing the mainstream Superman book? Because I remember it was like one of the guys worked on Annihilation.
Dan Abnett.
Yeah, Dan Abnett was working on the other book.
Yeah, he was working on Action while Tomasi was on Superman.
Yes, and both books were amazing. and they were selling really well too. They were like pretty regularly, shipping 100,000 copies every month, or close to it. And that was, and it's half that now. But the whole thing with Superman and what they got that Bendis didn't is and Superman is not any one thing in a sense. He is Kryptonian, but he's also from Kansas. He's also a Midwestern guy, who grew up on a farm in small town America. That's where his core comes from. That's, a lot of what he's defined by, which is why truth, justice, and the American way is such a big part of him. You start stripping those elements away in the modern day, and you miss the essence of who that character is and why he needs to be that sort of that sort of a hero who stands firm even when everything else is going to hell around him.
There's a Superman story that I'm sure we've all heard of. Where he fights the authority, right?
Yes.
And the entire premise of that story is the world thinks that superheroes are lame and gay, and we've got to have these new super edgy Dark Lord, edgelord superheroes to do everything. And Superman's not going to change for the times, and he's going to stick to his principles. It is one of the best written Superman stories of all time, and is a fundamental lesson about holding true to your principles and being a good person in spite of what's currently trendy. And now they're saying that they need to change Superman and the core of what Superman represents to match with the times, instead of finding a way to tell good and inspiring stories about the man he actually is.
Yeah, that Manchester Black storyline is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's something that a lot of people really don't understand. Yeah, that this debate has been had, already, and people were very honest about where it's going. I think that honestly, Captain America needs a story like that. Though I feel like his clashes with the Punisher kind of, actually no, one that is a really good example is in Civil War, where he beats the hell out of Frank Castle for killing people.
Yeah.
It is these statements and these sorts of things that people are losing sight of, and I think that there is this weird idea that, again, that because these characters are old, that they need to be updated. No. These characters are timeless.
Yes.
And that is something that is not understood.
And once upon a time, you would send your submission to DC Comics or Marvel, and they would take in the young talent that was good, and they would instill upon them, instill within them values and teach them about the principles of these heroes and what they represented and why they're important and what they matter. And when the big two closed the doors and stopped taking in new talent, they stopped recruiting and educating new creators in how to tell comic book stories. And then you had all of the old guard. And if you check the timelines, you'll start to notice when this happened and who was in charge when people fell in. The old guard, who had established 30, 40, 100-issue runs, were all aged out. They were aged out, that term. Find out who uses that word. They were aged out of the industry because they just couldn't relate to the youth anymore. People that were established pros that built the comic book industry and are now dependent upon the Hero Initiative. And so there was a crime against them, and there was a crime against all of the upcoming young guys, potential guys that could change the world like Odie, who don't have opportunities anymore. And the only opportunities that they are getting with any chance of realistically growing from here are through Comicsgate and are through organizations and groups and publishing books and publishing houses and books like CG Only and like Comicsgate as a movement, because that is the future. There is no other future. The people that are in power will not allow for any other change. They will only allow for ruin.
Well said. Very well said.
Yeah, amen to that.
Well, this is about time for us to wrap it up for tonight. This has been a great episode, a great talking with all three of you. I feel like we could probably take this into the wee hours of the night if I let it, but I try not to let these episodes get too long. But thank you guys so much for coming on tonight, for being a part of this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Make
us.
sure you follow both these guys on Twitter. It's the only way to keep up with Xenotype if you're looking for Xenotype updates. Liam posts them
We do.
every day. Odie, do you have a Twitter?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I don't post that much though. I mostly retweet what Liam posts. I just post on my Instagram, but yeah, Liam has the main like updating, Twitter.
There's not a lot of internet in the slave pits. It keeps them focused.
Yeah, I don't have free time.
No, that's all right. I just didn't know if I needed to pimp a channel or anything like that. So definitely make sure you follow at RetroBoy1983 for all of the Xenotype updates. Back Englewood, if you haven't already. What you said, you just crossed that 500 backer line.
Yep, just crossed it. So next goal for us, because we're about $12,500 ish.
Oh, you're at $12,499.
Yep. And next goal is to hit 15K, which we're going to be shipping these out of North Carolina to everybody who's wondering where this is coming from. But at 15K, I'm going to buy a plane ticket, go there for the weekend, and help the fulfillment process. And in the process of such, I will sign every single comic. Plus, if you want me to sign the posters that are going out, or even the T-shirts that are going out, I'll do that as well.
Awesome. That's very cool. Yes, and thank you, Spartan Scotsman. Follow him. Go to his YouTube channel, and you can see him live color Xenotype as he does it. I think that's a really, really cool thing.
And he will take feedback from you guys. We will take your feedback. If you want to be involved, if you want to get in to comics, go check out Spartan Scotsman and let your voice be heard, because we listen.
Twitch. Sorry, Twitch.
Yep.
That's
Definitely.
right.
We listen.
But that's a really cool. He's doing daily drawing or coloring tutorials. So if you're interested in learning how to color, you can watch him do it. And as Odie tell you, you can absorb a lot of information just by, watching other people hone their craft and do their thing.
Oh, yep, definitely. You just watch and learn.
That's right. I mean, really, watch and learn.
Yep.
But thank you. Hail to the chat for all of you coming out and being here with us. I know there was a couple other things going on tonight, so I appreciate you taking your time out of your night and hanging out with us. Until next time, adios.